Hello, night and day. And I find myself, I think when you are trying to form a connection or, you know, try to connect with people, I guess, pretty much the same thing, um, that you do sometimes have to open yourself up. I always think of it as kind of, expose yourself or, show your vulnerability in a lot of ways if you want an honest connection, which I think have been craving through this whole process or through this whole journey is not having, and I don't, I hope, or not that people have seen my videos, but I find myself talking about repeating myself or talking about similar themes. And so I definitely don't want to come off as, complaining or whining. I think one of the things that, Night and Day, I think is just great about that name is, there is the sun and light, and then there is, the darkness part of that. I think it's always, for me, it's just been kind of that yin and yang. How can I show both sides of something while being honest with both, with trying to show the honesty in both. Yes, do I want to come off as something more than I am, or something that, show the best side of myself and try to paint myself in the best light? Of course. And so do, some of our pictures on Instagram are showing the beautiful things that I see in California, the things that I think people will connect with, that I connect with just from visual aspects. Yes, part of moving to Orange County, part of being out here is that beauty, not that there's not another side of that, but I wanted to focus on the beauty of California, the beauty of Orange County. And I think that kind of is the same thing with seniors. Did I know, delivering incontinence products, that there was a bad side to it? Of course, I didn't know at the time. There was no way of knowing. So to even act like I would, I was open. I signed up to do this. I was looking for a change. I was looking for direction. So yeah, did I focus on the beauty of California and the beauty that, I could have freedom to try to establish something or connect with people in a way that, that I would have, that I thought I might have control of? Yes, 100%. As someone who, like I said, was lost their parents, both to cancer, didn't have that connection still, didn't have grandparents around, and was moving out here kind of on my own, which was a choice I was making, to leave the past behind, but not leave it behind, kind of, I think, take the best parts of it with me. And I was hoping I was taking the best parts of me with me too. But your flaws are your flaws, your weaknesses are your weaknesses. What's in your head is already in your head. So there was no way to kind of, as much as think you can create a new story and leave that all behind, leave the past in the past, until you kind of, look it in the eye and deal with it and learn to understand it and how it affects you. It's your path. It's your silent passenger. It just comes along with you. With the good comes the bad. So, I tried to look at seniors as kind of, a community that I love. I coming from Long Island, New York, where community is such a big thing. Even each separate community has their own kind of voice and their own kind of, opinions and their own strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, that's something that I always witnessed, and I'm somebody who likes to see what other communities and what other people have to offer, and I am able to look at it from a kind of clear perspective as someone who did study, sociology and criminology at the Ohio State University. So, that doesn't never scared me. If anything, it's something that, fulfills me. It's something that I love. I love seeing, people at their best and, understanding them at their worst as much as I can, as long as they're not trying to take me down with them. I'm always here to kind of reach a hand out to try to, listen, try to see what they're going through, and, mostly try to empathize with what they were going through. Because, I think the part of me that I was really struggling with the most is, not being able to empathize with myself, not being able to, kind of let myself out, try to, I guess, be vulnerable with other people and be vulnerable within my own self. I was trying to protect what I thought needed protection, trying to protect the strongest pieces of me. And I obviously wasn't doing a good job of it. And even now, it's taken so much intention and so much struggle, good and bad struggle, to kind of know what's the right fit for me, what's the right give and take, what's the right letting go, kind of being able to tune myself so I can, show the best of me, and also kind of be honest enough and be open enough to show, the most vulnerable parts of me, because that's where I've made the most strides. That's where I've grown the most. Where I was strongest, yes, I leaned on it, but that I needed to lean on it while I was kind of bringing up the rest of me from behind, the parts of my weaknesses, the parts of me that were broken, the parts of me that weren't connecting, the parts of me that were pushing people away, pushing myself away, pushing me from doing what I needed to do. So, did I lean into the senior community? 100%. Why wouldn't I, go to people who have experience, who have lived life, who know life's lessons, hear it from the kind of horse's mouth, and, kind of take what I wanted and leave behind what I didn't want, but also bring the best of me kind of every day, the most of me that I could. Because at the end of the day, I was looking to connect with people, and I thought by, just listening, watching, reacting to what people were telling me in a positive way, and trying to, hear what people were telling me and try to kind of meet them either where they were at, or kind of meet them halfway, and just try to help them, try to give them some relief, some, gratitude, some, just be kind of there for them for no other reason than who else was showing up, Are there other people, that do what I do? Sure. But did they do it the way I do it? Definitely not the way I've seen it, because I was willing to dive into the deep end of the pool. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't really know how to swim. So I was willing to kind of, sacrifice and give myself and serve a community, not because I'm anything great. I think it's the exact opposite, because I felt so shitty, because I felt, so inconsequential. And I think, coming out here and just being in California, and for me, I just kind of leaned into the small things. I kind of just took it day by day, and took it night and day, and just kind of tried to start building up, belief and hope again, and trying to build up a connection, because I didn't have anywhere to turn or anywhere to lean into. It was, everything that happened always felt so personal. Always felt like it was, just, the good was the good, and then the bad was just always felt like such a kick in the face at times, because I was trying to come from a good place. I was trying to turn over a new leaf. I was trying to put myself out there without kind of having to talk with my actions, and with my with just trying to be a good person, and hopefully people would see that and connect with that. And I think that's why 90% of my business has come from, recommendations or word of mouth. And I think that's how people have found me, and that's why they've called me, not knowing who I was, or not knowing who was picking up on their other end of the phone. But me just trying to, just be real, just be myself, I was never gonna sell some product, but I was gonna listen and offer the best thing I could, and offer honesty. To be honest, that's all I had to offer, was myself, being there every day, trying to smile as much as possible, trying to know that people were going through either the same or much more than I was going through, and seeing, the whole village of people that it takes to, support the senior community, taking the best of what people had to offer, not the phoniness, not the fakeness, but what people had to offer with their actions, what they were actually, not what they were telling me, but what they were showing me, and how so many random people were supporting me, and how many random people I was supporting, and, and just that coming together, those connections, is kind of what has kept me going for 25 years. And I know that I'm meeting seniors at a tough time. I know they're going through it, and that's what I think I love about it, because it is such a little thing, when you're not feeling well, it's the little gestures. When you're having a bad day, it's somebody, offering you kindness, someone offering you a smile, somebody, but not wanting anything behind that, just offering you a small connection, someone just being there for you in whatever they're doing, and being there for each other. And so I've always just leaned into that, and it's what I continue to lean into. But at some point, do I want to kind of progress and move forward and move this thing forward? 100%. And the only way I think I could do that is by kind of reaching out and putting a voice to this, which is not something I've wanted to do, but here we are. So, Night and Day, come along for the ride. I think it's your journey just as much as it's mine. So have a great day.